It's a tough balancing act for the president. This is about lives and livelihoods. What do you reckon his approach will be tonight?
Yeah, there's been pressure, Shahan, as the numbers have tripled within a matter of weeks. So there's been a lot of pressure on the president to again show how they can take decisions as an executive to try and stymie the situation. The challenge is that the economy is seeing a nice steady recovery, so you wouldn't be wanting to lose the momentum there. But at the same time, the numbers are the extent to which they've doubled within a very short period of time are threatening a firmer executive action. So it's going to have to balance between responding to the public health crisis, but making sure that it doesn't create a political economic situation that's going to be a lot more challenging in terms of people's rights, because people are watching those things, as well as ensuring that the economy also continues the momentum that it's been building up recently.
So let's elaborate on the economy a bit more. Government was hoping to rebuild the economy. The festive season would have been our ticket, especially in terms of tourism, but that, of course, seems unlikely now.
Yeah, there's a challenge there. Among some of the concerns for me is the fact that part of the money set aside to assist businesses during this time has again, experienced the bottlenecks that you find in finance in general in South Africa, where you find that those favored for receiving funding are those that are operating in principles of first world, whereas where real business activity that has potential to grow, money doesn't get there because the funding culture in the country still, is not a developing country funding culture, where you find that monies are easily accessible to entrepreneurs and they can do what they can to grow economies. So it's a little bit of a challenge there when it comes to the stimulus that government is making, that it's failing to reach the levels where some, enterprises that are operating in the margins can be helped to grow and operate and employ a lot more people than their small counterparts, by the way, in developed countries. Because in developed countries, there's a lot of small businesses that are employing people, but their growth is inhibited here.
And then there's the alcohol and restaurant industries. Of course, they say they can't afford another hard lockdown, but it looks like they will be targeted given the abuse of alcohol and that leading to wild parties across the country.
So to create restrictions is one of the ways in which government can respond to an escalating crisis like this. But the other is to enforce compliance with the existing laws. So if you go to the municipalities, one of the things you find is that Metro Police, among others, and SAPS are failing to ensure that pubs are closed at the right time. People are wearing masks in public spaces. I think the president may need some innovation in terms of allowing for the enforcement of the law, where police officers, if they are patrolling streets and increasing visibility, like we did during hard lockdown, we may only be left, in fact, with visibility and high visibility in communities as the last strategy to ensure compliance. So it's one thing to try and restrict and increase restrictions, but government can enforce the existing laws and we would have a lot more better outcomes. But also there's the level of responsibility that must be taken by the average South African too.
Yeah, that definitely is the case, isn't it? Now, the reality is that any restrictions will ease pressure on our healthcare system. Health workers need more support. Of course, Doctors Without Borders saying that understaffing is actually leading to unnecessary deaths. So can we expect to hear more from the president about that in particular? Because it's been something we've been hearing since we went into lockdown in March.
It's good to deal with, to introduce restrictions, but law enforcement needs to happen a lot more. And in fact, what you will find is that however harsh these restrictions can be made, if the enforcement of the law is not happening, it's going to be a futile exercise. So also the public health system, obviously, one of the challenges with South Africa is that in fact, with any economy, in the short term, it's very difficult to boost supply to ensure that it responds quickly to emerging challenges. So the state does need to show a little bit of leadership there too, working with the private sector. And it's important that stakeholders that are working with the president not only get there to guard their interests, but also to see in which ways can, while avoiding restrictions, more efforts are being made to ensure that we achieve the same objectives that the state may be wanting with more restrictions.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that. Political analyst on Gama Mtinka. And that's something, Sally, that we'll have to look out for in the president's address tonight. Yeah.